Hi, welcome everyone, and I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I certainly had a great one. I'm just back from a road trip to Arizona, and it was a family road trip, so I have two young children, 9 and 6, and if you had screaming kids in the back seat, you know what it's like. So it's usually, it causes a little bit of anxiety for us, and I want it to be a fun trip for my kids and also informative and educational and something that they would look forward towards. So I turned to Kiro, our agentic AI IDE, and created an activity book for them that's personalized for their ages and the places that we were going to visit. And it was a co-creation process with my daughters, so this is what they're growing up with, so I'm so excited about this new technology as well. This is just a small example of how agentic AI is driving personal productivity. Here at AWS, we are trying to solve much bigger problems with agentic AI. Today, we're going to talk about AWS Transform, our first agentic AI service, and how it is solving the problem of migrations and modernizations. So with that, I'm Lakshmi Dasari. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with AWS, and I have here Vimala with me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vimala Paidi. I'm a Senior Migration Solutions Architect from public sector as well.
So let's dive straight in. So how many of you have used any generative AI application so far? Show of hand. That's most of you, right? And that's also a validation of the number that you see on the screen. About 80% of enterprises will be deploying some form of generative AI-enabled applications by 2026. And if I were to ask the same question 2 years ago, less than 5% of your hands would have gone up. More than 15% of work decisions will be automated by agentic AI by 2028. And that's up from 0%. We're truly talking about autonomous decisions made by agentic AI, however, through human oversight, right? The human oversight is the most important part. Yet there's a lot of technical debt out there. 70% of the workloads are still running on traditional data centers and on-prem technology. More than 70% of legacy IT software is written more than 20 plus years old. What does that mean? There's not a lot of people that understand the technology. It's hard to maintain, it's brittle, it's hard to modernize. How do we then move from the current state to a future state? So if you look at a typical cloud adoption journey, and you may each be in different phases of the cloud adoption journey, the real value realization happens when the organization makes a deliberate decision to move away and retire the technical debt and adopt cloud-native technology. That's when the real reinvention happens. One of the segments I was supporting earlier in my previous role was digital native business customers. These were customers that are born in the cloud, constantly innovating and constantly reinventing. Yet it typically takes about 18 plus months to complete a migration. Migrations are hard, they're complex, they involve a lot of activities, many teams coming together. If you look at a typical migration methodology, there are typically 3 different phases: assessment, plan, mobilize, and migrate and modernize. One of the first things that happens in an assessment is creating a business case, the case for change. Why is this important? What is the ROI? What is the benefit for the business, right? And once you've done that and got the executive buy-in, you do a deeper discovery into your IT estate, where the applications are in their life cycle, and then determine the migration strategy from there on. Many of them may be just rehosted from the on-prem environment into AWS, from traditional VMs into EC2s. And some may need retirement or replatforming or re-architecting. And once you have determined the migration strategy, you move on to building a migration plan. So this is where you determine which servers can be moved in waves based on how dependent they are or what environment they run in, right? And then you build your landing zone architecture in AWS. which creates a strong foundation for the subsequent migrations to come. Now imagine doing this process for thousands of servers. This is where agentic AI can rapidly accelerate that process. With the help of LLMs and graph neural networks, we can process millions of lines of code, extract business logic, map application dependencies, the network topology, the infrastructure that they're dependent on, and be able to create the target infrastructure artifacts that are needed for a successful migration. So this is where AWS Transform comes into play. With that, I pass it to Vimala.
I would want all of you to pause and think about the data point Lakshmi shared with us. Typical migration takes from 12 to 18 months, about a year and a half. Today we are going to talk about AWS Transform, agentic first service, which would accelerate your migration and modernization by 4x times. It has specialized agents built for VMware, mainframes, Windows, any stack, and it has any-to-any custom transformations as plus. What differentiates AWS Transform from its previous version? It is built on migration methodology. It has scope to do end-to-end migration, assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize that Lakshmi spoke about. It has specialized agents, which are trained on thousands of migration over 19 years of AWS expertise. It has a unified web experience where users can log in and get a preview of their migration at any point of time. They can use it with enriched chat functionalities. They can also use it to collaborate between their teams. It also has the right balance between autonomicity and also human in loop. I'm going to show a demo which we would go ahead and look at how we can use the end-to-end migration within VMware. Okay. All right. This is how the experience would look like. Once you get into AWS Transform, you have a workspace, which is a container for your transformation. The first step is to create a job. This is where you define your migration scope. It can be a mainframe migration, any of the specialized migrations, discovery of specific workload. But for this demo purpose, we are going to pick migration. I am going to pick VMware migration. One of the key features that we have with Transform is it has different customized steps that you can choose for, which aligns with your organization. You can either choose end-to-end migration, you can just do discovery, or just network migration. Today, let's go ahead and do an end-to-end migration, and that's it. Like, it gave us a roadmap. This is the roadmap for your migration, for your transformation. It is aligned to the migration best practices. Phase 1, discovery and planning, assess. Phase 2, infrastructure setup, which is mobilize. And the third one is migration and modernization phase. You also have the chat functionality here. If you want to customize this, you can provide your input. It would customize your roadmap as well. I'm going to start the migration, create the job, and once I create it, it gives me a job plan. Again, on the left, these are the steps that the AWS Transform tool is going to run for us. We would be able to automate it, or we are going to look how we can provide feedback as we are moving through these steps. For today's demo purpose, I'm going to go over some key features. If you want to look at the complete demo, please stop by our kiosk at Migration and Modernization, and we'll go through all the steps here. As you can see, the first step here is importing inventory. That's the discovery phase. You can either use our discovery agent to know your source environment, or you can import any of the RV tools, exports, CMDB, any of your custom inventory that you have. You can definitely put that in through this tool. Let's take a look at migration plan. Once you import the inventory, we are going to go and look at migration plan. This is the step one. It is giving us a preview of the input inventory that we loaded. If you look here, it has about 48 total servers. It gives us the breakdown of network connectivity. And it also created output files from here. And also, if you want to customize your migration plan, this would help us automate and creating your waves. But if you would like to customize that, you can use the chat functionality to customize it. Here, I'm going to use the scope of VMware migration. I ran a report, so I do have the scope, which is for specific environments, and it's pulling up only VMware. And also, another key point, at any task level, if you want to provide instructions, you use at followed by the task name. So here, I'm saying at build migration plan, and I'm asking it to create very custom wave plan for me based on the VM information that I'm giving. Let's look at how it looks like when the waves are created. So behind the scenes, there are a few steps which you can give the feedback on how the wave planning will be done. You can group the servers or applications. You can provide those feedback, but this is the final output. It's giving us 4 wave plans, recommending us to do it sequential. If you're happy with it, you can complete it and move forward to the next step. After the migration plan is created, since it's end-to-end migration, you would be able to connect to your target accounts. Transform gives you a transform connector. Again, the tool will walk you through the information on how to input transform connector into your target accounts. Once you do that, the next one is migrating network. Network migration is one of the key elements where it's simplifying complex source network topology into aligned target networks into AWS. So here, I'm going to showcase like how it is going to take in your input. We can put in RV tools, NSX, and we have latest support to Cisco, Palo Alto, and FortiGate files as well. Again, we are going to upload a specific network topology into it, and the tool will take that input. If you want to change, there are 2 ways that you can look at your network topology when it comes into AWS. You can either use a hub and spoke method, or you can do isolated VPCs. If you choose the isolated VPCs, you would be able to update your CIDRs too. So this is how you can go ahead and edit your CIDRs. For demo purposes, we are going to put in a new CIDR and save. And we'll go step into the last phase here. Once you're happy with your network, the tool allows you to create your approvals as well. So this is where you can really get in the RBAC and have different teams work on different migration plans. Here we are using the demo user as the approver, so we'll go ahead and approve it. And once approved, this would automate the VPC deployment into your target applications. All right, so the last part of it is executing your migration plan. This is, under the hood, we are using MGN connector for executing your migration plan. So it goes in and gives you details on how you can install your application agents into your source environment. And it goes through the process of getting your replication, continuous replication, testing your environment, and then doing a cutover. So those 3 steps are how it works under the hood on executing your migration plan. So this is a kind of a preview of how AWS Transform works. If you want to look at the complete demo, please stop by at our kiosk. After the demo, after today's session, I and Lakshmi will be hanging out here too. If you have any questions, please feel free to come and ask. Lakshmi, over to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Vimla. So I quickly wanted to talk about a customer success story here. So Vector Limited, they are a New Zealand-based energy company, and they were able to migrate from VMware Cloud on AWS into native AWS architecture using AWS Transform for VMware and with the help of a partner Slalom. They were able to achieve 34% faster migration time and savings of 35% for the next 5 years in TCO. The biggest help they had that helped with the faster migration is the wave planning, which is one of the tedious steps in any migration. Understanding your application dependencies, grouping them into waves, speaking with the application teams, and then doing the migrations themselves. So now that we have gone through this cloud journey together, you've migrated, let's say, some EC2 instances, some service from on-prem into EC2, and then you are operating your workloads in AWS. How do you then keep up with the technical debt that creeps into your technology, right? So this is where AWS Well-Architected Framework and Well-Architected tool comes into play. So this is a tool that's available in AWS console now as a self-service tool. It is a guided experience. You define a workload, you go through the guided experience of answering the questions, and then finding remediations for the risks that it identifies. And this is based on our collective best practices over all of the evaluations that solutions architects have done in the last several years for our customers. So how do you say you're well-architected? It's well-architected if it's well-architected across these 6 pillars. And more often than not, we find that most applications are, they perform well in some pillars, whereas they don't perform well in some of the other areas, right? So there are about 57 questions across these pillars, and you go through that guided experience, and then you prioritize which pillars you want to work on. Maybe cost optimization is a major pain point for you as an organization. Maybe reliability is a major need. You know, the business continuity and the disaster recovery plans are something that are pretty much a must for every organization. So what does the well-architected improvement framework workflow look like? So like I said, first you identify a workload, you bring the people into the process, then you go through the guided experience, identifying the pillars that you want to prioritize. You answer the questions for each of those pillars, and at the end of it, you get a report that identifies high-risk findings as well as medium-risk findings. The high-risk findings are those that need to be addressed, and they have significant impact to the business. Once you've understood the risks, you can find prescriptive solutions in the framework itself, and you can prioritize which improvements you want to work on and accelerate the implementation of those findings. And this is where, tying back to the agentic AI solutions, this is where you can use AWS Transform for VMware, Windows, custom, or mainframe to really accelerate that journey of modernization further. So with that, we conclude this session. We really hope you enjoyed and learned something in today's session. There is a migration and modernization kiosk right in this AWS village. We'll be there as well, so if you have any questions, please come and talk to us. If you haven't done an EBA, EBA is an experience-based acceleration program that we have, and within a week or so, multiple teams can come together, take a small workload, go through the whole process, and it's the best way of learning. So please do talk with your account managers to schedule an EBA.
Thank you.
Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And please, please, please do take the survey. It's very important for us. And it gives us very qualitative feedback on how we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.